What expensive purchase have you made that has paid for itself many times over because you saved money in the long run? Story 1. Climbing rope can be pretty expensive on a dirtbag budget, but it is significantly less expensive than a hospital stay or a funeral. Story 2. A townhome on the river. It was 7 figures. It's doubled in price in the last decade. I was really worried when I got it, but now I might be able to retire on it. Story 3. Volcano vaporizer. I have non-epileptic seizures, and I must smoke 2 to 3 grams a day. I got this down to under a gram because of this baby, unlike smoking, which obviously burns away everything. The vaporizer uses hot air to push the good stuff out of the plant and into a bag. This leaves behind plant material. Thing is, if you regrind that already vaped material, you can get just as good of a hit as the first one, doubling my plant substance. It also decarboxylates the plant so edibles can be made. $700 investment 4 years ago, went from $500 a month in plant substance to $100 a month. Also helps save my lungs since I'm not inhaling any burnt material. I have no clue if it helps with the tar, but I don't cough up nearly as much gunk. If you get a volcano, get the solid valve so you can use turkey bags instead of their expensive proprietary bags. Story 4. I have 2 and both are frivolous items. My Coach purse lasted me 6 years of daily use. Every single day I left the house with that purse and it didn't start to fall apart until year 6. Since then, I have gone through 5 new purses and it hasn't even been 6 years. Coach purse 800 6 years, 8.33 month. I have replaced that purse several times over with 150 purses that last a whopping 6 months. Cheap purse 150 6 months, 25 month. I have a really nice pair of high heel boots that I love that are super comfortable and were 600. I've had these boots for 15 years now and had to replace the heel on them once. I have never even tried on a pair of high-heeled boots that come close to being this comfortable, and I can't imagine another pair lasting this long. Totally worth every penny. This is coming from someone who owns 3 pairs of shoes. Total. 1 work pair, 1 pair of black high heels, and 1 pair of sandals. I have been in the market for new runners since last spring, but haven't found a pair I desire. Buying a cheap jacket means it looks like a rag and keeps you warm like a sieve. Then you wonder why you're buying a new one every winter. Invest in quality, folks. Story 5. I bought an expensive grow cabinet. I probably could have built one myself, but I wanted one that looked inconspicuous and could hide odors. I've had several harvests, and it's already paid for itself. It cost about $500, but I can grow about 750 worth of plant substance per grow, so it only took 2 harvests to break even. Now I'm basically smoking for free minus minimal electricity costs because I use a small LED light. Story 6. My boots. I was going through a pair of 120 boots every 6 months or so. I finally broke down and bought a pair of 400 boots from a local store. Not only do they clean and oil them monthly for free, they also restitch and resole them as needed. When they eventually do wear out to the point of no repair, I will be buying the same exact boots from them again. Edit to add, they are Red Wing Logger Max Soft Toe Edit. Thanks for the award. Answer. I just bought 160 boots and that was an expensive purchase for me, LOL. My normal boots cost 60 and even they have lasted me almost 2 years now. 1. What the hell are you doing in your boots to wear a 120 pair doesn't even last 6 months? 2. You sound like you know your boots. The expensive, for me ones I got are from Beckett Simonon. Do you have an opinion on that company? Story 7. Girl stuff warning, an electric shaver epilator, and a moon cup. Both mean I don't have to buy disposables constantly, which saves so much money and time as well as being way better for the environment. Story 8. My Medela Sonata breast pump. My husband did a ton of research and we got it on sale as a backup allowing flexibility with breastfeeding before my daughter was born. And then my daughter was born and everything basically went wrong in terms of her birth. She ended up being a 4LB preemie and just couldn't latch as her mouth was too small to do it properly. I was also in ICU for the first 3 days of her life as well too, as I was put into a medical coma, which made even attempting breastfeeding impossible. I had sudden onset eclampsia with HELP syndrome. No signs of preeclampsia beforehand. The hospital loaned us a Medela Symphony while she was hospitalized and helped me get started pumping while they gave her formula until my milk came in. By the time she was released at 16 days, my milk had come in fully, and other than a day of nursing attempts, I ended up exclusively pumping for 12 months, and we even had to buy a mini freezer because I produced so much. Medela even replaced the pump at one point, and actually sent me a brand new full kit and told me to keep everything and just send back the malfunctioning pump and AC adapter. Only thing we paid for out of pocket after we got the pump was replacement pump assemblies and bottle nipples, as we sterilized constantly and the diaphragms eventually needed replacement. The money we paid for 2 sets of pump bodies and nipples was far cheaper than formula would have cost us. We figure we saved thousands, and it also allowed me to breastfeed, even if we had to use bottles, and even go out for a few hours by myself on weekends. She's thriving now and fully weaned, but both of us will always recommend it. The Medela pumps are not cheap, but there's a good reason why the hospitals use them. Printer cartridges are a hidden tax on your home office. A laser printer might cost more upfront, but when you calculate the cost per page over years, it's your wallet that ends up crying tears of joy. Story 9. My dry herb vaporizer. When you smoke plant substance from a pipe or joint, most of your flower and THC gets burned up immediately. With a vape, it burns at a lower temp, so you use less of your bud. The best part, though, is when you clean the burn bits out of your vape, you can save them and make canna butter for edibles. Story 10. Every year we buy a whole pig with taxes, about 400 acres. It lasts us most of the year. 1.19 per pound versus 3 for store-bought. Also, my pig is from a local farmer that cares about his animals. Story 11. ITT. Buy once, cry once. Buy or save up for the best you can afford of the thing you want, and you will always come out ahead. Story 12. Ceiling fans that make the house more comfortable in warm weather, thus using less electricity for AC. Also, they reduce heating bills during cold weather when the ceiling fans are set on reverse. Story 13. Leather jacket. I call it my investment clothing. It has lasted over 20 years and still gets compliments. This is a heavy biker jacket and is held up nearly flawlessly. I spent $250 on it in the very early 90s and just about had a heart attack. That was a ton of money for a college student, and was any piece of clothing going to be worth that? Well, it has outlasted everything and been worn pretty continually, other than a few years where I got too fat for it to be comfortable. Story 14. My Ray-Ban Wayfarers. I was going through a pair of Shoot 25 mall kiosk sunglasses every 2 or 3 months. The arms were Shoot, the bridges were Shoot, the lenses were Shoot, the frames were Shoot, and those little arms things that held the nose pieces in place were Shoot. I could feel them fall apart on my face. I've had my Wayfarers for 3 years now, and they look like they just came out of the box. I keep them in my inner jacket pocket like I did with every other pair of sunglasses I've ever had. I know Ray-Ban is owned by Luxottica, but the quality is still there. Story 15. The big Dyson pet vacuum, the purple one. I have 2 Huskies. I would go through Orex, Bissell's, Shark Vax, etc. each year because of how much they shed. I'd spend roughly around $200 on a vacuum every year. 5 years ago, after doing some research, I finally bit the bullet and bought my beloved Dyson. I paid close to $600 for it at the time. I think this model is a lot cheaper now, but it has lasted us the full 5 years. I have a 10-year warranty on it also, just in case something were to happen. It's easy to clean, it works great, too great almost, because even after 5 years the suction can get pretty intense when paired with the brush turned on. But I love it. My friends even love watching me vacuum with it and see the difference in my rug or carpet. I can even turn the brush off or take it out completely when I need to vacuum my Persian rugs. I have this one Persian rug. It's 100 silk, no wool, nothing but silk. Feels like velvet. I love it. Anyway, it's obviously super fragile and expensive because of the silk. My Dyson is a total angel when I vacuum over it. I do it lightly and quick and take the brush completely out first, but that's the precautions you take with high-end rugs. Every time I vacuum, I get the satisfaction that one gets from those info commercials. It's like I need a cigarette afterwards, LOL. A life rule. Never skimp on what stands between you and the ground. Shoes, a mattress, tires. $400 boots that last for years aren't an expense. They're a purchase with a lifetime visa. Story 16. Air fryer. I find myself wanting to cook more. My husband will even make meals with it. It's nice not having to power up an oven. Story 17. House cleaning service. Comes twice a month. My sew and I both work high crunch jobs, 84 hours a week. We were hesitant at first. Felt weird to not just be a grown-up and do all the chores yourself, but let me tell you, it is such a huge weight off your shoulders to come home to a clean house, where all the chores you put off, like scrubbing the entire shower, cleaning the oven, washing the windows, are finished, and you don't have to worry about what little free time of yours you have to sacrifice to take care of it all. There were so many times where we'd barely get any sleep because we had chores to do after coming home from work, or ate out because we just didn't have time to clean the kitchen to cook. If you have a very busy life, the time you get back from having all these things done for you has been beyond worth it. Story 18. If you're early in your adult life or move frequently, consider buying Tupperware-type storage containers instead of moving boxes. They're more resistant to the elements than cardboard, stack nicely when full, and nest when empty. Story 19. Solar power on the house. Got as many as we could safely fit. Not only did we not have an energy bill, but the power company paid for the power we put into the grid. Story 20. Taking an Uber home when tipsy, then back to your car when not tipsy. Why cheaper than a DUI or manslaughter conviction? Story 21. First, my 300 steel toe boots, I've had them for over 4 years and have only had to change the insoles. The soles are replaceable and the whole shoe can actually be rebuilt for a fraction of the cost for new boots. Second, me and my, at that time, girlfriend, now wife, bought a 2,500 king-size mattress. Great sale, usual prices over $5K. And man, that thing is super comfy and provides a great night's sleep. There is a lesson I was taught when I was younger. There are 2 things in life you should spend money on: your work boots and your bed, because if you are not in one, you are in the other. Story 22. I bought a 5-gig-rate utility trailer on sale for $550 and have saved a lot on delivery fees for furniture and whatnot. Not only that, but I can take stuff to the dump or take my boat to go fishing without bothering anyone. Story 23. Bought my own cable modem for $120 rather than rent one each month for $10 from my cable provider. It seemed pricey to me at the time, but it's been 5 years, so I have saved about $500. Story 24. So years ago when I started a warehouse job, I dropped about $170 on a pair of decent Red Wing boots. Everyone I worked with said it was ridiculous, but they would go through a pair of cheap boots a month. I still have my original pair, but I need to retire them. Story 25. Laser printers are expensive up front, but they will save you lots of money by no longer needing cartridges. Also is less wasteful because of it. Edit. Cartridges, not cartilages. You don't even have to cut off that nose of yours. It's a darn steal. Also, one look at my inbox, eliminate me inside. I guess thanks for that. Answer. I just bought a 2-pack of toner on Amazon for $30. Each one will print around 3,000 pages, which lasts me about 5 years, so it costs me around $3 a year to print as much as I do. I've had the printer since 2005. Inkjets are dumb, and the results blow. I have printed recipes that have been in my cooking binder for 15 years through all kinds of cooking messes and not a single run of ink. Probably because it fuses toner to the page rather than squirting watercolors. Story 26. I spent around $1,000 on knives. Quality, Henkel Professional S Series knives. People thought I was nuts, but that was nearly 25 years ago, and they have all survived and all get regular use. They hold an edge very well. Story 27. In my personal experience, 1. Actual wood furniture. I move a lot, not always by choice, and my thrifted and gifted real wood furniture may be heavier, but that particle board chute from big box stores kept falling apart. Besides, if I need to redecorate, I slap a coat of paint on and it's like a new piece. 2. Real boots and shoes. I spend $90 a pop on Rika sneakers, but only have to do it about once every 2 years, and they are so supportive of my flat feet. Love them. 3. A real leather purse wallet. I was buying fake leather or cloth bags and they would fall apart after a yearish of use. I spent $150 on a functional, classic-style Black Michaels Kors 3 years ago from Marshalls, and it has held up well. 4. A Honda Civic. Gas-efficient, point A to point B cars with parts available almost anywhere. My neighbor has a 3-year-old Hyundai that gives her more issues than my 12-year-old Civic. Sometimes I'd like something fancier, but with everything going on. Heartworm treatment costs many times more than prevention. Please protect your furry friends. Their health is your peace of mind and your savings. Story 28. A Vitamix blender, the holy grail of vegan cooking. They're expensive, but they don't break after a year like other blenders. So they pay for themselves after just 3 years anyway, because you don't have to keep buying new ones. They're capable of almost anything, and they're so clutch for vegetarian vegan cooking. I make my own oat milks, vegan cheeses, pasta fillings, ice creams, dressing, soups, etc. I bought mine secondhand on Craigslist when I was unemployed and low on cash. My partner told me not to do it because it was still like $250 for a used one, but I knew how much it would save me in the long run, and I don't regret it one single bit. Story 29. Volcano vaporizer. Bought one for my wife for Christmas, and luckily for me, my seasonal winter layoff was right around the corner. Around 600 new, I found slightly used at half that cost. It's only been 4 months, but it's already paid for itself 10x fold. Stay medicated, my fellow friends. Story 30. My husband and I put 2 bidets in our home when we moved in last year. Nothing crazy, just the ones that hook to the toilet. We use much less toilet paper. Plus, everyone is hoarding toilet paper right now due to COVID-19. Story 31. Taking care of body and mind, and that goes for everyone. Sure, there are circumstances in life that are unpredictable, but in the long run, statistically, it's better to take care of the mind and body in finding a balanced way of life. Considering a minimum wage hour job and then add the number of hours identities spend a day, month, year suffering endlessly, anxious, annoyed at life, anger at their significant other, worried about things. Meditation only begins when there is no suffering in a clear mind. Story 32. Buying a volcano vaporizer and using that instead of smoking has paid for itself many times over in both finances and health. Story 33. I bought a 60 bidet attachment for my toilet back in September. Not expensive, but it sure is paying for itself right now. Story 34. After over a year of having a water softener fitted, having no limescale buildup is a godsend. No cleaning products like limescale removers needed or time needed. I also use much less washing powder for the laundry too. Story 35. Miele vacuum. I felt really guilty paying that much for a vacuum, but I'd bought 3 in about 5 years and none of them were worth shoot. That was 15 years ago. My Miele still works great. The only maintenance I've ever had done on it was a cleaning and the cord replaced. Story 36. Espresso machine. I'm an ex-barista, so I know how to make most fancy beverages, but I didn't have the equipment. I'm also addicted to coffee, so my household was easily spending $10-20 per day on beverages. I bought a 90 basic espresso machine with foam wand, and I spent another $60 in startup materials. Nice coffee, milks, ice tray, reusable straws, and a few syrups. I kept a detailed log of my expenses for the first few months, and each drink came out to be about $1.60 in materials. I generally make at least 2 beverages a day, and it saves us $300 per month. Story 37. Hair clipper for $30. Has performed every haircut I've needed for 7 years. Cheapest haircut I ever had beforehand was $5. Ergo, saved around $250. True, I basically only have one hairstyle, but that's fine by me. Story 38. National Forest Yearly Pass. I went 14 different ones last year. 98 well spent. If I did not have pass, I would have paid over $300. Story 39. I have 6 acres of land with a fair amount of trees on it. I spent about $25K for a backhoe that is saved and will save me tons of backbreaking work. It's amazing the amount of stuff I can do that would take huge amounts of energy without the backhoe. Need a tree taken down and the stump removed? Give me an hour. Need a dead horse buried? True story. Give me about 2 hours. Need a 100-foot-long trench dug for water or power? Give me an hour. Need a 15-foot deep hole dug for who knows what nefarious reason? Give me about 2 hours. Need to flip a car? Give me about 2 minutes. Plow something. Completely destroy your yard? Move that dirt? Drag something heavy? Unstick something stuck? It was a shittin' of money for me, but incredible what I can do. Edit. This will probably never be read due to the amount of replies otherwise, but I didn't really think, other than maybe solar panels, that mine would be the most expensive. Really though, if you have any land that isn't just flat boring farmland, you need a backhoe. Also, everyone with that kind of land knows they need a backhoe. Edit again. Crap. Thanks for the little award guy up there. Edit again. Again. And thanks for the other little award thing. These are my first. Thrilling. What the crap? Edit again. Thanks for the third and any additional awards. I don't know what they mean or do, but they're cute. Buying appliances based on whatever's cheapest is like playing Russian roulette with your wallet. That surprise breakdown in a year and a half can cost as much as a new machine. Learn from other people's mistakes. Answer. I rented a skid steer for 2 days and was stunned at how much backbreaking work I got done. I dug over 50 holes, 2.5 diameter through both soil and an 8 thick layer of 3 stones. I planted trees in each of the holes, trees that were so heavy, it was all I could do to use my hips to sort of pivot them into the bucket. I dream of going to Vegas, to the place you get to play with construction equipment. Those 2 days were awesome. Story 40. Paid $1 for a library card. Best dollar I have ever spent. It has served as entertainment, movies, games, books, and recently puzzles, as well as a place for me and my family to go together. We learn a lot and grow in our sense of community. Story 41. Milk frother. Well, it's not really that expensive, about $50 for a good one, but it saved me hundreds in takeaway lattes I don't buy anymore. Story 42. I bought my woman a Hitachi. That little soldier has been to war more times than I could ever count. I realize it wasn't expensive, but it has paid for itself many times over. Story 43. So I have a few. 1. good sewing machine. 2, hair straightener. 3, hair dryer. 4, a good bed. 1, I kept getting hand-me-down sewing machines from people, which isn't a bad thing if the people before you were taking good care of them, which they weren't. I had to spend time and money trying to oil them and fix parts, or try to find new parts for them, only to have them still not work well. I eventually went out and got one for around $4.25, and it has been worth every penny. 2, I kept buying cheap straighteners, and they would last less than a year. They would just crap out, break, almost start electrical fires. It's stupid. I didn't buy the most expensive one on the market, but I think it was around $200. I have had it for about 10 years now. I use it almost every day. 3, kind of the same thing as a straightener. I went out and bought a good one for $85. Again, not the most expensive, but not the cheapest. I have had it for about 7 years now. 4, my fiance and I recently needed a new bed. We decided to buy something a little more expensive because the bed we had wasn't that great and we didn't sleep well on it. I was always having a hard time sleeping and couldn't figure out why. We recently bought a mattress that was more than what we had originally wanted to pay, and I have never slept so well in my life. We both love it and are so happy we bit the bullet and bought it. We have saved money already by not having to drink as much caffeine. I was buying pills to make me drowsy at night to help me sleep. Benadryl, Tylenol, sleepy teas, things like that. And I don't have to do that at all anymore. It's amazing how much of a difference it has made. A mortgage seems scary until you realize that in 15 years, your place is worth triple and the payment is less than your friend's rent. And yes, bread from your own oven is a near spiritual experience. Story 44, air source heat pump. Warms the house effectively even when it's 25 Celsius on a 13F outside. You get your money back through reduced costs to warm your house in no time. It can be set to substitute as an AC unit of about 15,000 BTU in the summer too. Story 45, when I was in 4th grade, my mom bought me this ugly plain blue Tommy Hilfiger comforter, instead the pretty print one I wanted because it was on clearance for $100 and was originally $350. I used it until it literally fell apart my second year of college, and I have yet to find a replacement that is as warm and comfortable. It lasted me over a decade of nightly use, and it also went camping with me plenty of times. When it finally fell apart, I noticed the inside was almost foam-like and had very tightly packed feathers. None of that typical fluff material. It never got bunched up or ripped like so many others I've had since then. Man, I miss that blanket. Story 46. I purchased a cheap tablet to use instead of printing off paperwork to refer to every day for work. Based on estimates I found on the internet for paper and ink costs, it paid for itself in about 6 weeks and has generated $1,500 in cost savings since then. Feels good environmentally as well. Story 47. When I moved back to my hometown over a year ago, I bought a 27-inch sailboat to live on because rent here is outrageous. Boat cost $4,500 to buy, and mortgage at a decent marina is about $170 a month. Rent for a studio apartment or 1BR here is $900, $1,300. Every month I save between $600 and $1,100, so the boat paid for itself in 4 to 9 months. Answer. Lol, my husband and I are doing this, but with an RV. Rent for our studio is $1,100 a month with utilities, but the rent is increasing by $200 at the end of our lease. RV payment is $350. RV spot is $560 with utils included. So we bought the RV and found us a spot in a nice little secluded park next to a lake and some hiking trails. We will have enough room in our budget to finally set aside for retirement. Story 48. People tend to overlook a washer and dryer. It's not about the money you save, but the time, and decent ones should last a decade. Story 49. A vasectomy. After we had 2 children, we knew that was a good number for us. We both come from huge families, and we know how hard it is financially and emotionally to provide for a large number of kids. Wasn't even that expensive either. Story 50. I was spending about $100 a year on razors. Thought I was doing okay. Knew how to sharpen the blades to get an extra couple weeks out of them. Not that bad of an expense. I then got a safety razor, spent about $30 on the handle, and $20 in spare blades. Seemed like a pretty expensive purchase at the time, especially for the handle. I could have just gotten 6 extra months of my usual razors for the same cost. Well, that was 2 years ago. I still have half my spare blades left. My 50 has saved me over $200 since, and will save me another $200 in the future until I need to buy again. And next time I buy, it will be just $20 for the safety razor blades. Totally worth the change. Took some getting used to the new shaving technique. Not terribly different, but enough that I was very careful at first. Highly recommended though. Story 51. My new fridge. I've been using this old fridge for a while that has been eating away my Con Ed bills without knowing it. New one is quieter and my mom freaked out, thinking the constant working of the old one was normal. The new bill came in and it cut our electric bills by a chunk. Story 52. About 20 years ago, I took out a loan and bought a big set of Snap-on tools. My own rule is to buy based on how often you're going to use it. Cheap for rare, expensive for frequent. But as a student, I received a 50 discount, so I spent the entire $3,000 on a large set with a rolling workbench height box. That would have easily bought me twice as many Craftsman tools or more, but the quality of the tools just makes every job go so much easier. Bolts don't get rounded off. They bite on bolts that are already rounded off. I've almost never had to replace any of them, mostly sockets. And after I had one ratchet, which I used all day every day, warranted twice, they upgraded me for free to a more expensive ratchet. They probably are not worth the cost for someone who uses their tools infrequently, but for a heavy user, they will save you money, time, aka money, and a lot of busted knuckles. 2 Huskies. A $600 vacuum. Math that seems insane at first, but 5 years later feels like a genius investment, especially when your carpet still looks brand new. Story 53. Mixer, I make my own bread. Dehydrator, make fruit leather out of IFE-looking fruit Allen Edmonds shoes. 600, but they are 7 YRs in and going strong house. Bought 15 years ago with a fixed mortgage. I pay less for my house than friends do to rent their apartments. Also, it's kind of a forced savings account. I know stock folks will say this one is 50-50, and maybe that's true, but it works for me. Story 54. Gas water heater versus electric. It was well worth the expense to pay to have the piping and flue put in. Story 55. LASIK eye surgery. Back when I had it done in 2004, I paid $2,000 per eye and went to the most reputable surgeon I could find in my area. That one 4K expense has saved me countless amounts of money that would have been spent on glasses, contacts, and various supplies related to such. Besides the money, I've lived a life of freedom that I always longed for growing up with horrible vision. I've never looked back. Story 56. I have some DeWalt tools that I cringed over how much I spent on them. But every single DeWalt I've purchased, I still have. Most of the off-brand tools I purchased have broken and since been replaced with DeWalt. Story 57. I haven't bought toilet paper in 8 years since getting a 40 bidet attachment on Amazon. Plus, you could eat off my jerk now. I do not understand why people still use toilet paper. It's absurd. Story 58. A really good water bottle and to-go mug. Stainless steel and insulated. Not the most expensive purchase, but expensive for cups. It's so worth it. Answer. Speaking of, a couple years ago, I stopped buying a coffee every morning to save money, and it's been great. I spend 20 every 2.5 weeks or so on a nice pound of coffee from our local roaster. My girlfriend and I each get a cup every workday out of it, and it lasts around 1,314 brews. That's 0.32 a morning each instead of the 355 a morning. Say I work an average of 240 days a year. That's 76.80 a year in coffee instead of 840, 1,200. Now going out for coffee on a Saturday feels more special too. Much worth it. Story 59. My noise-canceling headphones. I use them a ton to help with my anxiety. I used to go through a regular pair every few months, just wearing them out from excessive use, but these have lasted about 3 years now and still work great. Story 60. Espresso maker. 500 initial investment that paid for itself in a year versus the cost of getting latte a few times a week at the coffee shop. Story 61. I went to one of those shoe stores that does a 3D scan of your feet. I got scanned and learned that instead of having flat feet like I had thought for years, I actually have high arches. I got a pair of 120 sneakers with a pair of 50 arch supports. No more knee pain. Edit. Fleet Feet was the store I went to, but I'm sure there are others. Story 62. My first DSLR. I used the crap out of that thing. My previous car, first one I bought new. The level of refinement and reliability were totally worth it. Story 63. Quality cold weather gear. Not only does it work better and look better, I've had a couple jackets for over 5 years now that see heavy use. Meanwhile, I have a couple friends that basically buy and throw away cheap gear every season. Works like shoot, looks like shoot, ends up in a landfill. Costs more in the long run. Lose, 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 lose. Answer. This is so accurate. When I was in high school, I would always buy cheap winter coats on sale for like 20 that would barely last all winter. Before I went to university in a province that has way more snow and is way colder, I bought a foreigner jacket. That was in 2012. I wore it every day for all those winters, and just last year the zipper broke. It can easily be fixed, and besides that, the jacket is still in perfect condition. Story 64. Really high-end good bed sheets. I spent $600 on a good set that I've had for 2 years. For some reason, I am a weird sleeper and wake up often too hot or too cold. I narrowed this down over the years to bed sheets and bit the bullet on some highly recommended but cost a fortune. And wow, they really help me out. The good night's sleep from them are priceless. Not to mention waking up feeling well-rested and comfortable. I never want to leave my bed now, really. Story 65. Costco Executive Membership. It pays for itself every year. They are literally paying me to shop there. Story 66. I bought a gym membership that was $100 to sign up and $100 a month. I use that gym every single day. When I started, I was 255 pounds and on the verge of needing blood pressure meds and diabetic counseling from the doctor. I lost 70 pounds in 6 months, and as a result, I no longer needed to go to the doctor as often. I did not have insurance at the time. This saved me expensive doctor visits and monthly supplies of blood pressure and diabetic supplies. This was about 10 years ago, and I've managed to keep the weight off. I probably saved myself tens of thousands of dollars for something that cost me $1,300 the first year. Story 67. Diagnostic scanner for my car. 25 and has already saved me hundreds when my check engine light came on. Story 68. A high-quality fixed gear bike. Cheap, low maintenance, and I love it so much it gets me out. Used it for school every day for the last few years. Story 69. Here we go. Small stuff. Duluth Trading Company fire hose, flex work pants. Being able to high kick a beaver has come in handy. Ergodine's anti-fog safety glasses. Now I keep them on my face instead of on the top of my head. Mill fucky tools, thanks Av. Fucking skookum. LG retractable BT headphones. Surprisingly indestructible. Doubles as ear protection. Spam calls double as a neck massage. Big stuff. Starting a business during a recession. Kick 'em while they're down. Dear corporate overlords. Sorry. Toto washlet. Because a wet butthole is still 50 of the problem. Looking at you bidet. Kids. The only person who thinks I'm amazing is 5. I'll take it. Story 70. My Peloton bike is looking pretty good these days, considering my gym just closed. And here I thought the divorce bike was a ridiculous luxury. Now it's my lifeline, huh? Story 71. Years ago, my wife and I had a Starbucks Verismo espresso machine. Each pod cost $1, and we'd each use 2 every day. That's 4 days, so we were spending upwards of 28 weeks just on coffee. Still cheaper than Starbucks, but we grew tired of the pod trash and having to find the coffee pods we liked. So we decided to purchase a Juraina Micro 1 coffee machine. It grinds and pressure brews coffee and espresso. We were able to reduce our cost from 4-day to less than 0.20 per day, assuming 5-pound coffee bought in bulk. The machine was $800, but it paid for itself in less than 8 months. That was 4 years ago this month. We've saved over $5,000 in that time. Plus no more pod trash, and we get to choose whatever coffee beans we want, rather than being limited to what was in pods. Story 72. I bought a $500 bicycle to use as my main transportation. $500 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're only making $8 an hour, it took some time to save up for it. With public transportation being $2.50 a ride, the bike paid for itself in about 3 months. I used that bike for about 3 years. I still have it, but I moved so I can't use it for the same purposes. Thanks for the silver. Story 73. New windows on our house. Replace the old single-pane metal frame windows. It was like a waterfall of cold air coming off of them, and the noise from the street was obnoxious. Heating bill was cut in half. Answer. Did you do any insulation at the same time? Just curious because I have a house in Maine that is about 100 years old and had old windows and no insulation when I bought it. We kept the old original windows but insulated the attic and basement sills only. Still no insulation in walls, and cut heating oil from 250 gallons every 2 weeks to 250 gallons for the whole winter, plus 2 cords of wood in the wood stove I installed. Story 74. Not sure if this counts, but I used to go to the zoo a lot to check out their parrots. It was almost an hour by bus and a meanie of a walk up a hill, but I love those screaming rainbow chickens. Then one day, I up and bought my very own rainbow chicken. Now I visit the zoo maybe once every few months, but I bring my own bird to show them that this is the fudge jail she'll be in if she ever bites me again. I would die for my stupid bird. I save bus fare and buckets of sweat, I guess. Edit. Here is my idiot bird, along with her friends. Story 75. Buying a repair jute for my car. I did the work myself for less than $400. Had I taken it to a shop, it would have been well over $1,500. If an issue comes up, I can fix it myself. Story 76. Lol may be bad timing, but I live alone. And I saw the grocery store about a month ago was selling 36 packs of the really good toilet paper for like 25 off. And I was like, I'll take the hit now and won't even have to think about it again until summertime. Turns out that was a good call. Story 77. My alarm clock. It was about $80, but it will start to simulate the sunrise to wake you up. I've always been a pretty heavy sleeper, but this thing wakes me up gently with only light and bird sounds, and I get up so much easier. Story 78. Expensive sporting equipment for your kids. Oh my gosh, I cannot explain this enough. People will scoff when you mention that your kid's baseball was $150 and that Timmy's was only $50 from Walmart. Yet when I was 12, my parents paid $150 for a glove that I used religiously almost every weekend, 9 months out of the year, and it lasted me until I was 21. 9 years of use, and it hasn't even fallen apart. Yet I just simply wanted a glove with newer padding. If I caught a ball in the wrong spot, it tended to sting a bit. But seriously, spend the extra money to buy your child equipment that will last, and not only that, but keep them safe. This glove had padding that lasted 9 years. Story 79. Herman Miller Aaron computer chair. I bought it slightly used on eBay for just over $400. I used to basically purchase a new chair from Staples every year and tried everything from their cheap ones to overpriced ones. This chair was an investment I hoped would last 4 to 5 years instead of buying a new cheap chair yearly. Well, it's lasted between 10 and 12 years now, and I really don't see myself ever needing a new one. Story 80. Ironically, a Lamborghini Gallardo. Someone approached me, asked what I did, and we got talking. Turns out he ran a very successful dealership chain and had several Lamborghinis as well. We become friends and ride on the regular. Eventually, he sets me up with a friend of his who owns a large retail store. My business then gets contracted to fulfill orders for him and be the primary supplier. It was a $12,000 deal, and I earned an instant $240,000 the same day we closed as a security for him to follow through. I never came from money, and honestly, I just felt like I was on autopilot and not even in control, just shaking hands and being nice. I'm still in shock a few weeks later, and now I'm running a company and a real CEO. Literally all by chance and being in the right place. So yes, that purchase, that initially felt risky, ended up being the best decision I've made. That and my wonderful girlfriend who's been with me from the days of barely making rent. A $100 fine that nets you $3,500. Every thrift store enthusiast's dream. The moral, sometimes you just have to be in the right place and know the value of old junk. Story 81. Crock pot to cook chicken to feed my animals. We were spending almost $300 a month on cat and dog, wet food, and now it's closer to $20-30 and much more healthy for them. Story 82. A scooter. Push a scooter, not electric. Good quality and folds under my desk. Allows me to get public transport and then scoot the remaining distance. Saves me up to $8 per day in parking fees if I drove. Story 83. I bought a new car last July. I also got the 3-year windshield coverage for $800. I bought it on a Thursday and Tuesday driving to work. I go a massive rock chip. Got it replaced and the bill would have been $730. I also currently have a tiny crack from a chip this winter and going to get that taken care of for free too. Story 84. Solar panels LMAO don't burn a dead dinosaurs, just buy some. They save so much money. Also check out Project Sunroof to see how much you save. Story 85. Quality shoes are the first one that comes to mind. Used to buy a 30 pair and expect them to fall to pieces in 6 months. Then bought a 70 pair and they have lasted years. With this one, it's a bit of a stretch to say, I saved money, but quality games you never get bored of. Played games like Warcraft 3, Guild Wars 1, and Ho-En for 10 years. 5,000 hours of entertainment for like 150, including expansions and stuff. Suppose they saved me buying other games. Story 86. Maybe not what you're looking for, but cloth diapers. My wife and I cloth diapered with our first child and are using them again for our second. The initial investment was hefty. We spent just shy of $500 for about 30 diapers. However, we don't buy disposable at all. I have conservatively said we would spend $100 a month on disposable. We cloth diapered till my daughter was 2.5 years old, so 30 months. That's roughly $3,000, so saving about $2,500. With our second child, there is no upfront cost since we still have the diapers and he turns 9 months old in 2 weeks, so another $900 saved. Now, this isn't perfect. I understand the added cost of water and detergent, but that's negligible based on laundry for a 4-person household anyways, when you figure bulk detergent and she washers. My wife would also say the environmental impact of not throwing diapers into landfills. Story 87. Vitamix blender. I swear, you will never buy another blender in your entire life. Smoothies hit completely different. I bought a used one from the 1980s for like $150 and use it every single darn day and never had a single problem. You can also make salsa and boil soup in the darn thing. Story 88. I bought a pair of Tykes. I was replacing my black flats twice a year because I wore them every day, but these have been about a year and a half now going great. Plus, they're super comfy. I wore them 2 days straight at Disneyland, and no blister, sores, anything. Story 89. I don't make a lot of expensive purchases, mostly because I live with my parents and don't have much money of my own. I get 99 of my expensive clothes, music equipment, and electronics as gifts, but purchases that generally end up being worth more than I pay for them are succulents. They're lovely little house plants that don't need a lot of consistent attention. Perfect for someone like me who has depression and ADHD and has trouble getting out of bed and remembering to do things. And what's more, they're super easy to propagate. Make more of them. Detached leaves start sprouting new baby plants if you just leave them be, and cut stems will very easily grow new roots if you let them scab over and stick them in some water. Basically, by buying one succulent, you can have essentially as many of that kind of succulent as you want. Story 90. Kenmore washer and dryer purchased new from Sears in 1998. They are still going strong, and I guarantee when they do kick the bucket, the new washer and dryer I'll have to get from Lowe's will be lucky to last 10 years. Story 91. I bought a full-face respirator a year ago. It was about $180. That's a hell of a lot of money for someone who didn't make more than 10 an hour. It's paid for itself many times over already with the dirt it's kept out of my lungs, and it's slated to pay for itself many times more now that there's a virus going about. Answer. My work provides me with an emergency kit for chemical leaks, which includes coveralls and a filtered face mask. I wear these things a total of 3 days per year during the mandatory protective gear training week. This is top-of-the-line equipment that is going to be useless even if there is an emergency, because the only emergency work I'd be qualified to do is to walk in and sit in my office until someone else fixes things. But my employer still provides the equipment and the training. If you need a face mask for your work, why isn't your employer providing it for you? Also, a respirator isn't a one-time purchase. You need to clean it very thoroughly, and the filters should be changed regularly. Story 92. My car, in reality, I paid $2,300 for it. I pay $100-ish for insurance. Bus fare in my city is roughly $6 each way, plus $10 for the commuter bus to the next city for my job. My breakdown is $180 a month for gas and insurance. My payments are $150. So I am saving roughly $80 a month, which I have saved for repairs and maintenance. Story 93. I bought a trailer hitch ball for my truck that I never used so far. It has paid for itself several times over since I have been rear-ended 3 times since installing it. Each instance, the other vehicle has had serious damage, whereas my hitch just gets a scratch or two. I got rear-ended in a drive-through, once leaving a parking lot, and once while it was parked and I was away from the vehicle. It saved me money since I didn't have to spend time to get it fixed. Nor did I ever have any body damage, especially from the parking lot issue. I knew it happened since chunks of a bumper were near my truck end. Best 40 purchase I have ever made. Story 94. Buying a Tesla paid for itself in 4-ish years because it costs only a couple dollars to completely charge. I charge at 40 and up to 70 to preserve my battery life. I pay less than $1 to do so. So with it, drives great, looks great, drives itself with supervision, and is way cheaper than a gas car. Story 95. A good pair of boots. My brother bought a pair of cheap NAF boots that is similar to mine. However, he paid $19 for it from Shoe Zone, and I bought mine for $65. I'm still wearing it very regularly with some minor wear and tear 2 years later. My father replaced it at least 5 times, so in theory, he paid $100 for boots. Story 96. My bought sunglasses in 2016 for a ridiculous sum of money, still have them, still in love with them, and the quality is so good. Story 97. An industrial carpet cleaner. No more driving to Home Depot to rent one. Hurrying home, trying to get the whole house done as quickly as possible, cleaning it and rushing it back in the 24-hour window. I can clean immediately when I need to. I can plan to do certain things at certain times. It's awesome. I have had it for 3 years now, and it paid itself off a long time ago. Story 98. I bought a Vitamix, a really friggin' expensive blender. I make soup, peanut butter, smoothies. I waste less food because soup. I buy peanuts in bulk and make sugar-free peanut butter. Story 99. I wish I could say heartworm prevention. On Chewy.com, it's like 30 for a pack of 6 or something like that. It turns out to 5 a month. Now my dog is on his last heartworm shot. After buying into a wellness plan, his shots are still $250. This one is his 3rd in a month. Buy heartworm prevention for your dogs. People, it's so much cheaper than these shots. Answer. This. I adopted a dog who turned out to be heartworm positive. The adoption agency told me she was negative. Her first vet visit told me otherwise. I live in a stupid expensive city, and her vet care for getting her treated totaled to a few grand when all was said and done. Plus, we had to spend our first few months together, unable to run around and play, going to the vet a lot, etc. She's the love of my life, and I would do it all again for her 10 times over. But man, I can't say it loudly enough. Don't skimp on heartworm prevention. Story 100. Bought a 500 USD Breville espresso machine at the end of 2017. It's been a great investment, and the savings is more than half compared to Starbucks. My estimated calculations include roasted beans and maintenance items for cleaning the machine versus equivalent Starbucks venti latte. 5 days a week times 2, me and wife. We each just have one per workday. Beans 2x, 12 O's bags last 10 workdays roughly, and the bags cost 17 $17 per bag. Machine cost plus beans and maintenance over 560 workdays is homemade lattes 1620, rare Starbucks 5 venti latte 2800 dozen, well worth it and 100 times better coffee, and I can vary the bean from different roasters. Starbucks convenience does not equal over 2x the cost. Story 101. My Ender 3 is quickly paying for itself in random parts I have made to replace things like airlocks for beer, handles, and other things. Made some adapters for cameras and battery holders as well. Saved some money there too. Story 102. TiVo DVR with lifetime subscription, $700 in 2012 versus $20 a month from Cableco. And it's been reliable. Buy a cable modem too. But that is not expensive. Story 103. I live in Minnesota and am a single woman. One winter, I missed 2 shifts at work because my car wouldn't start and I didn't have anyone who could jump it, and roadside assistance couldn't be there for hours. After that, I went out and spent a little over $100 on a portable car starter. It is a small black box that connects to the battery and jumps the car without needing someone else's car. This has saved me so much time and money. Also, being a single girl who at the time worked at night, I didn't have to worry that some stranger stopping to help might have ulterior motives. I feel much safer and always keep it in my purse. Added bonus, I can charge my phone with it too. I've been singing its praises ever since. Story 104. Overtone conditioner. Expensive stuff, but for $30 I've been able to keep my red ombre red for 6 months. Usually it fades in 1 too. Story 105. A new boiler and a flush of all radiators in the house halved my monthly gas bills, and the house is actually warm. Story 106. Good work boots. Was originally by cheap trainers and was going through them so fast. I was a dog handling for the RSPCA for a while, and it involved being on my feet for like 9 hours. Eventually decided to splurge and get a quite expensive pair. That was over 3 years ago now. I still wear them, even though I don't work there anymore. They are still as comfy as when I got them, and for the harmful behavior I put them through in that job, they are still in amazing condition. No longer buying new cheap trainers every month or two, because of how quickly I wash going through with them. Story 107. For women, I would say a menstrual cup. You can even find cheaper options than the Diva cup. But man, the amount of money that I'm saving on not buy pads and tampons is amazing. If you're a woman who is struggling financially, a one-time payment for the menstrual cup is an amazing investment. Story 108. Fitbit $75, leading to a much healthier lifestyle. It will save me hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, blood pressure and diabetes medicines, bypass surgeries, etc. Literally has reminders on it to move around more and exercise a little harder when I'm slacking. I couldn't be prouder of my purchase. Story 109. High-quality kettle. Technically, I didn't spend a lot of money on it, but my grandma did, and I got it when she passed away. By the look of the handles, it's probably 20, 30 years old, but the actual kettle is still in better condition than a kettle I purchased 5 years ago. Story 110. Cookware. Around 8 years ago, I wore out my first set of Teflon-coated bullshit. At that point, I decided to just get nice pots and pans. I spent around $60 a piece for my Calphalon tri-ply set of cookware. I couldn't afford a set. Most of mine are refurbished, but I cook at least once a day, and with a little love from Barkeeper's friend, they all look brand new. I feel like I'll be able to pass them to my kids when they get older. Also, shaving equipment. You don't need the newest 5-blade bullshit. I got a safety razor and 100 blades for the same cost and haven't bought anything in almost 2 years. Story 111. A very expensive suit. This was the late 90s, and I was 20 years old getting paid by the hour to do glorified help desk work. I had dropped out of college a couple of semesters in because I needed to work. A recruiter called me out of the blue saying they needed someone right away. Could I interview the next day? The employer was the largest privately held company in the U.S., and they had a reputation for being a very conservative suit and tie operation. All I had was a poor fitting sport coat I got when I worked at Circuit City. I called my father, and he said, go to Nordstrom's, explain the situation, and they'll get one done for you. So that's what I did, and $600 later, I'd emptied my bank account and was walking out the door with a new suit freshly altered that night. I did the interview and just hit it out of the park. They offered me $55K starting salary to do app support, which in the 90s was a crap ton of money for a guy going from making not a lot of money. A real leather bag, solid wood furniture, a Honda Civic. These aren't just things. They're quiet, reliable companions through life that won't let you down. And yes, they save a ton of money. Story 112, my pellet stove. It used to cost $300 a month to heat my 900 SQFT house to 70 degrees. With the pellet stove, it's max 4 a day, and my house is 80 degrees. $5K spent on a nice stove paid for itself in a couple years, and it's been running for 15 years now. Story 113, not necessarily expensive these days, but a vacuum packing machine for the kitchen is the best thing I've ever invested in. I rarely throw a scrap of food out nowadays, and freezer burn is a thing of the past. Apart from using it for sous vide, I also make bacon, ham, salt, beef using the equilibrium method, so had perfect dry cured supply for years. It's a piece of cake to produce and a different class to store crap, and lasts for many months when kept vac packed. Answer, yes. We buy meat in bulk and vacuum seal. Also saves large blocks of cheese from mold. We stopped using them for sous vide though, just to eliminate the waste since we do that often. Over the weekend I smoked 2 pork butts. First night we had awesome dinner, and I saved 4 one-pound bags of the leftover meat and froze them. We just pull them out and throw into a pot of boiling water, and the meat doesn't lose any of its moisture. Story 114, my life. After a lifetime of PTSD, losing everything, even my children, while making 6 figures, I got mentally healthy, finally, and I make about 66 of my old wage, and I'm finally healthy, happy, and have recovered most everything, and improved on what I could. Get healthy. Find help. Living in trauma isn't worth whatever you think makes it okay. Money isn't anything, but people are. Story 115. Bought a 2019 Royal Enfield Continental GT motorcycle last year, and using that to commute to work has seriously cut down my gas expenses. I don't know when it will become profitable, but when it saves me $40-50 every 2 weeks for gas, I dig it. Story 116. Through my car dealership, the offer when I bought my car was an extended warranty. Mostly, if it is mechanical, it is covered. Some added limitations, and a 100 deductible exist. That car is 9 years old now. 130K miles. I've used the warranty no less than a dozen times. It cost me about $3,000 in total, including deductibles, but it has saved me at least $6K in repairs. I plan to drive the car until they refuse to repair it, when it is cheaper for them to buy back their warranty. Great investment. For clarity, this was not one of those spammer deals. It was through the dealership. Story 117. My appliances. I didn't opt for the cheapest ones, but also didn't get the most expensive. We found a local place with great warranty. My first stove bought was a cheaper one. It died in 1.5 years, and the cost to fix it was the cost of the original price I paid. Don't skimp on these. It costs so much more in the end. Story 118. Nintendo Switch. I did not expect it to be as fun and as easy to use as it is. As a great bonus, it has a lot of games that my otherwise non-gamer GF loves. Story 119. My late 2010 MacBook Pro. Still running, no problems. The only mod I did was replacing the HD with an SSD. Story 120. Laser eye surgery. No more needing to buy new glasses every couple of years. No more forking out for contact lenses. Also avoided the incidentals like glasses repair kits, eyeglass cleaners, all the consumables that go with contacts. Saving money long run isn't even the good part. The good part is not needing glasses. Answer. Adding on to this that undergoing LASIK was probably the smartest decision I've ever made. Granted, this was when I was in my parents' insurance, so technically I didn't pay for it, but it's been over 20 years now, and I've never paid for glasses, contacts, eye exams, anything. It's so nice just being able to wake up and go, not having to find your glasses or put in contacts. Story 121. Decent coffee maker. Espresso maker. I drink 2 double shots a day. That thing paid for itself within a month. I also don't need to leave the house. Making the espresso takes literally 1 minute, and quality even with pre-ground coffee is better than of non-cafe coffee from around the corner. Now the grinder is something I still have to justify for myself. As of yet, I'm too stubborn to pay a reasonable price for orders of magnitude better tasting coffee. Edit, just to clarify, I didn't mean anything fancy. The espresso maker I bought was about $150 at the time. It's not amazing, but like I said, it paid for itself and lets me stay at home. which as of now is more valuable than I could have foreseen. I will buy a grinder someday, but I am not looking to buy one right now. My homemade coffee, I just drink for the caffeine. And I have a lot of other stuff of higher priority that has to be paid for. Story 122. Not expensive, but the meat grinder attachment for my stand mixer probably 5 years ago. I think it was 35. I usually buy chicken breast for something like 1.9 libidors, whereas ground chicken can cost double that. It's paid for itself many times over. Story 123. A sewing machine. And not even a fancy one. I'm petite and almost any garment I buy has to be altered. Pants are almost always too long. I can only do basic sewing, but have been able to hem pants, skirts, dresses, and take in side seams. Saved a lot on simple alterations like that. Story 124. A wax pot for 50. I used to get my eyebrows and bikini wax done every month, and in a year it added to around 200. Here are some reasons why I recommend it. Cheaper. It's not hard to do, though it does take courage. Hygienic. You clean, dispose of your own tools. You control the amount of hair that stays goes. No stranger touching your lady bits. Flexibility. Do it when you want. Story 125. A Japanese chef knife, meaning made in Japan. Been using it for 3 years and still haven't had to sharpen it yet. Story 126. A Rancilio burr grinder and espresso machine. 1 mocha for me and 1 latte for my husband every day for the last 6 or 7 years. I'm too lazy to do the math on that, but I know that was a worthwhile purchase even though it seemed expensive at the time. Story 127. A good chef knife. I own 1 knife and dropped 300 on it about 6 years ago. Been using it religiously ever since and love it. Just have to care for it. I think it's way better than owning a set. I've handled this knife so much. I know its weight and feel. Story 128. My Dyson and my Roomba. Both have worked well. Both are easy to take apart and clean fix. My wife thought the Dyson was broken last night because it wouldn't turn on. I flipped it over, took it apart, and cleaned the dog hair and crap out of it. Apparently it's smart enough to not blow up the motor if it is all clogged up. Roomba is great too. Works great. Easily disassembled parts to get the gunk out. Compared to the cheaper versions of both we have had before, I love them. Story 129. Solar panel with a portable generator that charges on it, and a space heater. My power bill went from 150 to 53, average. Also, lifetime Star Trek Online, gaming PC, and shower chair. It's much cheaper to buy a shower chair than KT tape, ibuprofen, and ER visits for dislocated joints or fainting. Story 130. A Kindle. The hardback copies of 2 of the books I wanted were of the same price as the Kindle. Plus, the ebook copies were not even 20 of the hardback copies. And you get most of the classics for free on the Kindle store. Story 131. Brand new 2013 F-150 with full extended warranty. It has required no major repairs and still gets great gas mileage for a truck. I had a lot of lemons over the years, so it's been great to have a reliable vehicle for once. Story 132. Braun electric razor. Fine German engineering. My wife, at the time girlfriend, bought it for me for Christmas in like 2006. It gives a shave as close as a blade, but for a fraction of the cost. Haven't bought disposable razors or shaving cream since owning it. Story 133. Not expensive at the time, but a few months ago, I bought one of those bidet attachments for $17 on Amazon. Just looked again today, and the exact same one is now $45, with other models $20, $50 more. It's paid for itself many times over before the crisis, but now, Story 134. This one sounds extremely frivolous, but just hear me out. For my high school prom, I rented my dress from a popular designer rental company, so that was cheap. But I decided to splurge on a 98 pair of black heels. I worked for my money. Before then, it never fathomed spending so much on shoes, but when I saw them, they were the perfect any occasion nice heels. Matched literally anything, could be dressed all the way up to prom level, but the height was reasonable enough to get away with a more professional look too. Let me tell you, when I slipped those bad boys on, my life was forever changed, and I learned an important lesson that has saved me hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars over the years since. Expensive heels are expensive because they are comfortable. I repeat, expensive heels are comfortable to wear. I danced all the way through prom in those 4.5 beauties, and they remain in my closet, still regularly used at age 26. Edit, can't for the life of me remember the brand, and did just recently retire them, but they were on a front display inside either Macy's or Nordstrom in 2012 prom season. But the comments have revealed that everybody's feet are definitely built differently, so your perfect pair are probably totally different. Thanks for all the responses. $600 bed sheets. Sounds like a luxury for the spoiled. Until you try them. Sleep is 1/3 of your life. Investing in quality sleep pays you back every single morning. Answer. As someone who regularly dresses like a cave troll because comfort literally anything else, this is actually really good information. I like wearing my sneakers every day, but nothing is worse than those once-off fancy occasions where I procrastinate until the last minute in getting an outfit and then much later realize I have zero footwear options and have to waste money on cheap Target shoes that barely last a year. Story 135. I have a bike, not even an expensive one, just a regular bike that I use to go to work every day. It's a half-hour ride. I no longer use public transportation or a car, so I save money on gas or metro tickets. Cycling an hour a day is enough to keep in okay shape, so I don't need to go to the gym. Best money I have ever spent. Story 136. 23 years ago, I bought a used 1991 Toyota 4-cylinder truck. Paid it off early. It's now 29 years old and refuses to die. Good gas mileage. Low insurance. I changed the oil myself. Answer. Hell yeah. I had an 85 pickup growing up, 22R engine, owned a 95 Tacoma for like 10 years, and sold it with almost $260K. Then a couple years ago, I picked up a 2001 Tacoma with 240K miles on it for $4K. Put a couple grand into it for maintenance, and it became my daily driver while the nicer vehicle sits at home. 250K on it now, and I kind of want to put a turbo on it. Freaking love those trucks. Story 137. Stupidly fudged expensive sleep aid pillow for a baby. Our other parent friends had got them and swore it helped their newborn sleep for hours at a time. What bullshit. You can't get babies to sleep. They are little balls of mental turmoil and sleep torture. But in pure fudge exhaustion and despair, we paid over $110 for this stupidly shaped fudge, retarded pillow thing. I dislike myself for even playing along, let alone having a one slimmer of hope it would help. Sweet mother of fudge. It worked. Day 1, kid slept 3 hours more than normal. That's 35 per hour. Day 2, he slept for 4 hours. That's 7 in total, down to about 15 per hour. Very soon, this retarded, pillowy snake oil piece of middle class, branded, snobby cunt targeted, yummy mummy advantage-taking bullshit had paid for itself 1,000,000 times over. It saved my marriage, my sanity, my health, my job. I fudge love you, sleepyhead pillow. You extortionately expensive piece of cotton and fluff. That's worth every fudge penny I paid. Oh, and an Osprey backpack that the kid sits in. That mother fudge has traveled the world with us and made our lives immeasurably happier. You can't push a pram up fudge mountain goat tracks across 3 continents. Booyah! A Lamborghini that landed a multi-million-dollar contract. A story straight out of a movie, but it's a reminder. Sometimes the craziest purchase can open a door you never knew existed. And always be nice to strangers. Story 138. Genuine answer. What hasn't? Most of my friends are working class to working poor. I come from an upper middle class household. I am teaching them that you need to spend right to save money. I have tops that cost $60 that I have been wearing almost every day for 10 years. My shoes rarely cost under $150, but I was brought up with an eye for quality, so even shoes I dance in for nights on end lasted me over a decade now. I buy the good makeup, and I have Chanel Rouge that looks barely used, but have been using for 15. Story 139. My 2013 Tesla Model S P85, 251,000 miles, free fuel and 0-60 in 4.2 seconds. Not to mention free software updates every few months. Story 140. Any maintenance to your vehicle. If they recommend a service to the vehicle to keep it running efficiently, do it. Went to get a patch on a tire because it had a small leak. The tech said that my brake pads were so worn and recommended, I get them changed soon. Went ahead and had them take care of it while there. Take care of your vehicle, my dudes. Story 141. Dropping $1K on an espresso machine 10 years ago, so I would stop paying $4 multiple times a day for coffee. Still runs great to this day. Had to replace some maintenance bits here and there, but it saved me a lot of money. I make 4 per day usually for 2 people. If I were still buying them, that would be $1,460 per year without taxes included. Considering I bought it around 10 years or more ago, I've saved over $10,000 over that time. Of course, I still have to buy milk and beans and pay for electricity and water, but that's pennies in comparison. For anyone interested, it's a Rancilio Silvia. They make a really durable machine that I would say is commercial grade for the home. It's not the best of the best, but it will get the job done really well and treat you well for years. Story 142. Samsonite suitcase. Not even that expensive, 100-ish, but it's 6 years old and not showing any signs of weakening. I'm certain it'll last at least till its 10th birthday. MacBook Air is another one. Bought 7 years ago, and I swear it runs as good as it did on day one, except for the battery. Story 143. I buy most clothes at thrift stores. I found a cheap 1970s men's suit in good fabric, but needed to tighten waist and shorten and deflare the trousers. I soon realized I couldn't fix that by hand, so in 2019 I bought a sewing machine, AU300, in a 50-off sale. Since then, I've tapered about 8 of my business shirts. I have small waist compared to the shoulders. Tapered the legs on many of my thrift store trousers. Several really high-quality, well-preserved 1970s flares, or basic wide legs from the early 1980s. Shortened a couple of casual shirts and about 8 t-shirts. I even sewed new elastic onto all my old underpants as the elastic went loose, but the fabric part was still good. Given the cost of alterations, the machine has probably paid for itself already. Even a small taper to a shirt or trouser leg can make a huge difference to the item. Things that fit perfectly look 100 times better, and you feel great wearing it. A Tesla that pays for itself in fuel savings. The future is here, and it's not just eco-friendly, it's hungry for your savings. And yes, it drives itself while you ponder the meaning of life. Story 144, a stainless steel Rolex about 50 years ago. I haven't had to replace batteries like in a quartz watch. I haven't had to replace a watch because of heavy rain or getting pushed into the pool or ocean. It keeps perfect time, so I haven't missed appointments, planes, or trains, and I don't have to remember to wind it up. And when the coronavirus gets me, I'm 70 years old, it will go on to my children who will probably use it for another 50 years. Story 145. I started a job at a surplus store and found crates of old SNES games in the back that came from some old store getting blown down by a tornado. My manager had no idea how much they were worth, so I bought them all for $100 and sold them all on eBay, making a $3,500 profit. I had about 150 games, and one of them was even worth $200. I bought a game for 50 cents and made $200. Story 146. Cast iron skillets are one of the rare things you can buy that get better the more you use it and will change your steak game forever.